Hello from Jerusalem, from Beit Avichai, and thank you for joining us. In a gathering of Iranian Jews in Shiraz at the end of 2002, one of the leaders of the Jewish community spoke of the 13 Jews recently released from prison after being accused of spying for Israel, saying, "Our community needs to be united more. We need to take advantage of every opportunity to bond tighter. We are not the same subdued people as before. We are alive, joyful, active, and Iran lovers. We've been inhabitants of Iran for the past 2,700 years, and Iran is our native country. We are essentially Iranians first and then Jews. We are proud to be Iranians. Long live Iran, long live Iranian Jews." The Jewish community currently living in Iran is the largest Jewish community in the Middle East outside of Israel. This community in Iran is one of the oldest continuous Jewish population outside Israel. Moreover, the Jewish community is the ancient religious minority in Iran. Jews has lived constantly in Iran for 2,700 years, as the Jewish leader said. Iranian Jews traditionally have been seen themselves as indigenous Iranians residing in their homeland. In Israel, USA, and other places around the world, when you meet immigrated Jewish Iranians, they will always yearn to their lost days in their common lost Vatan, homeland, so they called it, of Iran. They will tell you about the visit they paid to Hamadan, to the tombs of Esther and Mordechai, the heroes of the Megillah, the scroll of Esther, about Cyrus the Great, who saved the exiled Jews. These two events are the connecting link between Iranian history and Jewish Iranian history and general Jewish history. This longing on the part of the Jews posed questions with reference to Jewish interaction in Iran with larger society. Were the Jews treated well in Iran all the time? Were they regarded as part of Iranian society? And how their share in society should be defined? All these issues are closely related to the question of Jews' identity. Did Jews living in Iran see themselves mostly as Iranians? Her Jewish religious identity was merely a side issue? These questions are the axis around which the following lectures revolves. Moreover, the case study of Iran's Jewry may teach us how a Jewish community survived throughout the ages, against all odds, throughout difficult times, especially in a Muslim environment, Shiite Muslim environment. Learning the history of the Jewry may gain us insights into processes that minority groups are going through, especially the Jewish Middle Eastern one. Of course, a lot can be said about this magnificent and complex Jewish community. But as you know, we have only 4 lectures. So if you need to know more about this magnificent community, I recommend 3 main books. The first one is Jews of Iran by Amnon Netzer, who wrote about Iranian Jews. The second one is a book that was edited and published by Ben Tzvi Institute. This book is the 5th in a series on Jewish communities in the Middle East in the 19th and 20th centuries. The series provides a comprehensive description of the historical, social, and cultural processes that took place in the communities in the Middle East. In recent years, Israeli society has been increasingly aware of the importance of preserving the heritage of Jewish communities, and the series is intent to contribute to this trend. And the third book is Esther's Children, a portrait of Iranian Jews in English, a magnificent volume that makes available the comprehensive history of the Jews of Iran from their earliest documented settlement in the land of Iran through the end of the 20th century, lavishly illustrated in full color with more than 500 images of manuscripts, objects, pictures, a family portrait collected from private and public archives around the world. So you are most recommended to take a look at these books. So let's start. When did it actually all begin? When did the Jews arrive in Iran? A variety of dates connect to origin of Jews in Iran. The Assyrian Sargon II conquered northern kingdom of Israel and deported the exiled Jews to various places, including Media, parts of which today's Azerbaijan, Kurdistan, and present-day western and central Iran, as you could see in the map. So this is one of the explanations to the origin of Jewish community in Iran. Yet, the more likely version is that the origin of Iranian Jews is from the Babylonian exile. Nebuchadnezzar destroyed the temple in 586 BCE and exiled Jews to Babylonia. The Jews wandered around, and some of them set their place in central and south Iran, as you could see in the map. Interestingly, medieval Muslim geographers claim that the city of Esfahan in the middle of Iran was actually established by Jews who arrived there following the exile from Jerusalem. Here you can see the main river in Esfahan and the main building that built over the river. According to these Muslims, Isfahan was called first Yehudiyeh, after its Jewish colony. The story tells that the exiled Jews from Yehuda, from Israel, brought with them samples from the water and earth of Jerusalem. And every place they stopped in their journey of exile, they compared the water and the dirt to those of Jerusalem. Only in Esfahan, as you could see, they found the perfect match and settled there. So the water of the Anderud, the main river in Esfahan, is similar to the one in Jerusalem. In 338 BCE, Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Iranian Achaemenid Empire, conquered Babylonia and other places, including the land of Israel. As you could see in the map, this is the Achaemenid Empire that was founded by Cyrus the Great. He declared that Jews may return back to Zion and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, as viewed in the Book of Isaiah. We may assume that at least a fraction of Jews who didn't take up this opportunity went eastward to Iran, to Persia. They probably constituted the first basis for Jewish community in Iran. In general, the Achaemenids were tolerant to the people under their rule. This may explain the emergence of Jews to influential positions. Zerubbabel, head of the return to Zion, Ezra, Jewish scribe, Sofer, Nehemiah, the governor of Persian Judah, Daniel, the king's commentator of dreams. And here you could see the tomb of Daniel in Susa, Shusha, in Iran. As well, of course, of Mordechai, the chief advisor of the Persian king, and Esther, who became the queen of Persia under the reign of the Achaemenids. According to Iranian Jewish tradition, at least three, Daniel, Mordechai, and Esther, are buried in respectable old mausoleums in Iran. As you could see, this is the tomb of Esther and Mordechai in Hamedan. The mausoleum located in Hamedan, which is the biblical Achmata, which was one of the capital cities in the Achaemenid king. According to Persian Jewish tradition, but also according to Iranians, the remains of Queen Esther and Mordechai buried in this mausoleum. The site serves as a place of pilgrimage for the country's Jews. Interestingly enough, according to some of local Jewish Iranian tradition, Esther's is Cyrus the Great mother. Of course, that doesn't work out chronologically because Esther was before Cyrus. Esther was after Cyrus the Great. But again, this is one of the traditions that connect Iranian history to general Iranian Jewish history to general Iranian history. According to other tradition, Cyrus the Great, that was the son of Esther, he's the one who built the shrine in Hamedan. In the Feast of Purim, Iranian Jews read the Book of Esther, the Megillah, in this small chamber and pray there. Now we'll show a short clip on the Esther and Mordechai mausoleum in Hamedan. So you could see the amazing mausoleum in Hamedan, which is protected to this day in Iran. It's a holy place for Iranian Jews, but not only for Iranian Jews. Even Christians and Muslim Iranian pay a visit in this shrine and believe that it's a holy place that has important holiness that can affect them. So, Jewish life in Iran continued under two additional pre-Islamic empires, the Parthians and the Sasanians. Alexander the Great, the Greek ruler, conquered Iran in 330 BCE, thus starting the Hellenistic period in Iran to be followed by the Parthian dynasty. Not much is known on the Jews of Iran in those days. Philo, the Hellenistic Jewish philosopher, and Josephus Flavius, a Roman Jewish historian, tell us about a large number of Jews living beyond the Euphrates. The Mishnah quotes Rabbi Nahum the Median, while the Talmud speaks of letters sent by Rabban Gamliel to our brethren who live in Babylonia in Media on the issue of Ibur of the month. So overall, the status of Jews under Parthians seems to have been good. The Parthians were generally tolerant of religious minorities. Jews occasionally joined the Parthians in the wars against the Romans, and there is some evidence on friendship between certain Jewish religious scholars and Parthian kings. Rav is said to have befriended with Ardavan, the last Parthian king, and this is a very unique friendship. The Sasanian, another pre-Islamic dynasty, emerged to power around 224 or 6 CE and ruled Iran until 651, until the Muslim conquest. One cannot generalize about Jewish existence under the Sasanians, as there were different approaches to Jews. And this is, by the way, is an important saying. because in every dynasty, in every period, there were different relationship and different treatment to Jews from one king to another, or from one ruler to another. At times, Jews managed well. Shapur II, and mainly the queen mother, Ifra Hormizad, the emperators of the Sasanian Empire, are known for their friendship with Jewish religious scholars. Yazdegerd I married a Jewish woman, Shoshan-Ducht, that is reported to have been the daughter of Resh Galuta, the exilarch. Some archaeologists, by the way, claim that Shoshan-Ducht is the one that actually buried in Hamedan and not Esther, as she was a Jewish Iranian queen. And later on, it was related to Esther's tomb instead of Shoshan-Ducht. At other times, under the Sasanians, Jews were attacked, occasionally under the influence of the Zoroastrian clergy, the official religion of the Sasanian Empire. Such apparently the case in the days of the Sasanian king Piruz, who began targeting Jews around the middle of his reign. One source says that Jews who killed two Zoroastrians brought a disaster on the entire community. A half of the Jews of Esfahan were slaughtered, and their children were sent off to the fire temples of the Zoroastrians. Zoroastrians were fire workers, and they had fire temples. So the status of minorities was officially determined by the religious law of Zoroastrian, as recorded in the Avesta, the main book of the Zoroastrian. It called for imposition of restrictions on all those who were viewed as heretics. Jews were part of them. But practice was less severe than the law. And the king was motivated usually by political and economic conditions rather than merely by religious ones. In principle, the position of Jews was equal to that of other groups, such as Christians, for example, who also were a minority in Iran. However, politically, the Jews were on a higher standing relative to the Christians, who were occasionally suspected for cultivating active sympathy for the Roman enemy. In general, under the Sasanian, Jews enjoyed tranquility and safety for several hundred of years, which in return enabled them to develop the Babylonian Talmud, the central text of Rabbinic Judaism and the primary source of Jewish religious law, the Halakha, and Jewish theology. So the Talmud was actually created under the Sasanians. The Babylonian Talmud consisted of documents compiled over the period of late antiquity between the 3rd to the 6th centuries in the Babylonian parts of the Sasanian empires. It has been extremely argued that Talmud is an expression and product of Sasanian culture, and we could see different references to Zoroastrians and to the Sasanian culture in the Talmud. Before moving to the Islamic era, we can sum up that throughout these centuries, the Jewish community in pre-Islamic Iran endured periods of prosperity as well as hardship, influenced by the varying policies of the ruling empires. Despite these challenges, Jewish life in Iran persisted, leaving a lasting legacy in the region's history. in their region's history. Yeah. Some Jews found careers in the Persian imperial army, while others, like biblical Mordechai, Esther, and Nehemiah, found careers in government service. The translation of Hebrew text into Persian and Aramaic facilitated a cultural exchange that shaped Persian literary and intellectual traditions. Evidences of Jewish presence was also found in Persian art and architecture, testament of the Jewish community's influence on Persian society. So there was a flow between cultural items between Iranian Jews community and Iranian surrounding, and vice versa. Sasanian rule was ended by the Muslim conquest in 651. Iran now became a part of a vast empire stretching from southern Spain to northern India. The approach of Islam and Muslims toward Jews was based on Muhammad's attitude towards them, Quranic perceptions, and precedents that developed during the conquests. The Jews, as well as some other religious minorities, were to be recognized as people of the book, Ahl al-Kitab. Under Muslim rule, Jews were granted the status of dhimmis, protected people in Arabic, and were required to pay jizya tax. In return, they received a degree of religious, legal, and cultural autonomy. They had to acknowledge their inferiority and the structural and practical superiority of Islam. The Zimma consisted of a set of conditions which included the prohibition of constructing new houses of worship and of riding on saddlebacks or horses. The Zimmis were obliged to wear clothes that different them from those of the Muslims. Still, it seems that compared to their status under Sasanians, the status of Jews under Islam improved. Jews now received protection dictated by the Sharia, the law of Islam. Thus, we know that some Jews converted to Islam voluntarily or were forced to do so in some cases, but the majority of the Jewish community in Iran or outside of Iran maintained their Jewish identity. Unfortunately, there are gaps in our knowledge of Iran's Jewish past under the Muslim Empire. Some Iranian Karaites serve, in addition, as a good example for larger processes sweeping over the Jewish in general. There was a Karaite community in Iran. As part of a general trend of Jewish immigration from east to the west in the 10th and 11th centuries, one can find the Tustari family from the city of Tustar in Iran, or Shushtar, southwestern of Iran. This family moved from Tustar to Egypt, where they're engaged in international trade. Some of the members of this Iranian Jewish family reached high posts in the Muslim government of Egypt. The dhimma then was not always practiced in reality, so there were always the gap between the law and the reality, and it changed from time to time and from a ruler to ruler, as I said before. So this is another example that things could be different in reality for the Jewish community. The Mongol invaded the Middle East in two major waves during the 13th century. They actually conquered Baghdad, as you could see in the map over here, in 2058. Their Mongol conquest was a cruel conquest. The Mongol actually destroyed everything in their path. One of the more successful tactics employed by the Mongols was to wipe out urban populations that refused to surrender. And Iranians were part of these people who actually didn't want to surround the Mongols. So due to the brutal methods employed in order to subdue these subjects, it seems that not many Iranian Jews' remains survived, and documents from the pre-Mongol period. The Mongol actually burned and destroyed all of them. And lately, there are some documents that were found in different places around Iran, in Afghanistan, for example, the Afghani Geniza, from which we can learn more about the pre-Mongol periods and about the Jewish community in the days before that. Significantly, the Mongols were not Muslims, and as such, they treated all non-Mongol subjects equally. During the Mongol invasion of Iran in the 13th century, many Jews perished alongside their Iranian neighbors. However, during the following century, under the Mongol rule, there were unexpected cultural and economic growth, including a degree of religious tolerance, because the Mongols were not Muslim, so they didn't differentiate between Muslim and non-Muslim. We know about at least 2 Jewish individuals, one of them, by the way, converted to Islam, that rose to the prominent position of the chief minister during this period. This is amazing and unique in Iranian Jewish history, but not only that, in Jewish history. The Muslim Dhimma approach to Jews thus was ignored under the Mongols, and certain Jews rose to extremely high levels. Saad ad-Dawla, a Jew from the area of Qazvin, Iran, started in 2088 as the court physician of Mongol ruler Saad ad-Dawla, later became the ruler's advisor, then the head of the Iraq administration, and finally in 2089 was appointed to the first vizier of the Mongol Empire. Following years saw spiritual growth in the Iranian Jewish community. The greatest Iranian Jewish poet, whose composition was read in the Persian Jewish communities of Bukhara, Afghanistan, and Iran to this day, was Shahin. To this day, Iranian Jewry know to quote from the books of Shahin by heart. Shahin, who lived in early 14th century Iran, wrote a poetic description of biblical books in Judeo-Persian, as you could see in the picture. Persian written in Hebrew characters. You can see here that at the top of the picture it said, Andachtane madare Musa, Musa alayhi salam, dar atash Suzan as tar Sepharaon. People who know how to read Hebrew can read it, but they won't understand what is written here because it's actually Persian that is written in Hebrew letters. This is the Judeo-Persian language. His portrayal is highly sophisticated in language and style, and as recently shown by scholars, Shahin appears to resemble, if not intentionally, imitate the classical Shahnameh of Ferdowsi. The Shahnameh, the Book of Kings, is the mythology of Iran. And you could see another picture from the Shahnameh, and you could see the similarity between this page from the Shahnameh and this page, for example, from Shahin. This is from Ardashir Nameh. Ardashir Nameh is Shahin's commentary or about the Esther's Megillah. It's actually the story of Esther and Mordechai that was written as a song, like the Shahnameh, an epic song, and it's actually imitating the Shahnameh, as you could see here. And again, it's written in Judeo-Persian. Shahin offered his Jewish audience their own Shahnameh, thereby indicating at the same time both integration of the Jewish community into local culture and also preserving of Jewish tradition. And as I said, even today, Jews that immigrated outside of Iran a long time ago still know to quote poems from Shahin's book by heart. So he actually succeeded in preserving the biblical stories. So, to sum up, in this lecture, I talked about the ancient history of Jewish Iranian community in different dynasties, mainly pre-Islamic dynasties, and later on we moved to the Islamic period. We could see that this ancient community was treated differently from time to time, from ruler to ruler, but what is seen is that they were well integrated in Iranian surrounding. And not only that they were integrated in Iranian surrounding, they also had interaction in sometimes they actually influenced the Iranian surrounding, and on the other hand, they adopted from Iranian culture. And even today, when you talk to Iranian Jews, you could see that they are well integrated in Iranian culture and Jewish Iranian culture. Thank you very much.